As the storm raged on outside, Olivia sat by the fireplace, staring into the crackling flames. Memories of the past haunted her, threatening to engulf her in a wave of sorrow. The letter in her hand felt heavy, its words etched in black ink, a stark reminder of the secrets she had kept buried deep within her soul for years. She unfolded the paper slowly, her heart pounding in anticipation of what was to come. Each word pierced through her like a dagger, reopening old wounds that had never truly healed. With trembling hands, she read the letter once more, letting the tears fall freely down her cheeks. "I know the truth now," the letter began, the words accusing and filled with bitterness. "You thought you could hide your sins from me, but I have uncovered everything. It's time for you to pay for what you did." Olivia's hands shook as she clutched the letter tightly, the weight of the words crushing down on her like a ton of bricks. How had he found out? How had her past come back to haunt her after all these years of living in peace and solitude? With a heavy heart, Olivia knew that she couldn't outrun her past any longer. The storm outside mirrored the turmoil within her, the winds howling like the echoes of her mistakes. She had to face the truth, no matter how painful it would be. As she rose from her seat by the fire, determination burned in her eyes. She would confront her past head-on. She would seek redemption for the sins she had committed in her youth. It was time to face the consequences of her actions, no matter the cost. With one last glance at the letter clutched in her hand, Olivia took a deep breath and stepped out into the raging storm. The path ahead was uncertain and treacherous, but she knew that she had to walk it alone. It was time to unravel the web of lies she had woven so long ago and find a way to set things right, no matter how impossible it seemed. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the rugged landscape, Lily took a deep breath and stepped forward. The wind whipped through her hair, carrying with it the scent of adventure and uncertainty. She couldn't shake the feeling that something momentous was about to happen. She trudged through the dense forest, her heart pounding in her chest. The rustling of leaves and distant calls of birds filled her ears, creating a symphony of nature's whispers. A sense of unease crept over her, but she pushed it aside, determined to uncover the truth about her past. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows ahead. Lily froze, her eyes widening in recognition. It was Marcus, her long-lost brother who had disappeared without a trace years ago. Tears welled up in her eyes as she raced towards him, throwing her arms around him in a fierce embrace. "Marcus, how? How is this possible?" she stammered, her voice filled with disbelief and joy. Marcus held her tightly, his own eyes glistening with unshed tears. "It's a long story, Lily," he began, his voice tinged with sadness. "But I need your help. Our family, they're in danger." Lily's heart plummeted at his words, a cold dread settling over her like a heavy shroud. She pulled away, searching his face for answers. Marcus's eyes bore into hers, filled with a mixture of fear and determination. "We have to act fast, Lily. The clock is ticking," he urged, his voice urgent. Lily felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through her veins, her resolve hardening like steel. "I'll do whatever it takes, Marcus. We'll save them together," she vowed, her voice steady and unwavering. Hand in hand, they set off into the unknown, their journey fraught with danger and secrets waiting to be unraveled. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the vast fields of wheat, Emma sat on the porch swing, her heart heavy with uncertainty. She had never felt so torn between duty and desire. The sound of approaching footsteps snapped her out of her reverie, and she looked up to see Jacob making his way towards her. "Emma," Jacob began, his voice filled with a mixture of determination and vulnerability, "I need to tell you something." Emma's heart raced as she watched him take a seat beside her, the air thick with unspoken emotions. "I can't stop thinking about you, about us," Jacob continued, his eyes locking with hers. "I know we come from different worlds, but that doesn't change how I feel." Emma's breath caught in her throat as his words washed over her like a wave. The forbidden thrill of their growing connection mingled with the fear of the consequences they would face if anyone found out. But in that moment, all she could focus on was the undeniable pull she felt toward him. "I feel it too," Emma whispered, her voice barely above a breath. "But we can't, we shouldn't." Jacob reached out and gently took her hand in his touch sending a jolt of electricity through her. I know it's complicated, he spoke softly, his gaze searching hers for reassurance. But I can't walk away from this, from you. Can you? Tears pricked at the corners of Emma's eyes as she struggled to find the right words. The weight of their forbidden love bore down on her, threatening to crush them both. But in that moment, she knew that turning away from Jacob would be like denying a part of her own soul. With a trembling breath, Emma turned to face him fully, her eyes raw with emotion. I can't walk away either, she confessed, her voice ringing with a fierce determination. I choose us, Jacob, no matter the cost. And as the stars began to twinkle in the darkening sky, Emma and Jacob clung to each other, their hearts intertwined in a love that would defy all odds. But little did they know, the storm brewing on the horizon would test their bond in ways they could never have imagined. As the storm raged outside, Sarah felt a different kind of turmoil brewing within her. Memories of the past came flooding back, threatening to drown her in sorrow. She stood by the window, staring out at the dark skies, tears streaming down her face. "Why did you leave me, Dad?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the howling wind. The pain of his sudden departure still lingered, like an open wound that refused to heal. She remembered the sound of his laughter, the warmth of his embrace, and the smell of his cologne. But now, all she had were faded photographs and a heart full of unanswered questions. Why did he choose to walk out on them? On her? Was she not enough to make him stay? The sound of a knock on the door jerked her out of her reverie. She wiped away her tears and composed herself before opening it. Standing outside was a man she didn't recognize, his eyes filled with an intensity that sent a shiver down her spine. "Sarah, I've been looking for you," he said, his voice low and gravelly. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice steady despite the fear bubbling within her. "I'm James, your father's old friend," he replied, his gaze searching her face as if trying to read her thoughts. Sarah felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. Maybe James could provide her with the answers she had been seeking for so long. Maybe he could shed some light on her father's sudden disappearance. "Please, come in," she said, stepping aside to let him in. As James entered the room, a gust of wind blew through the open window, sending a chill down Sarah's spine. She couldn't shake off the feeling that this encounter would change everything, unraveling secrets she had long buried. "Sarah, there's something you need to know about your father," James began, his voice grave and somber. And in that moment, Sarah felt the weight of the truth bearing down on her, threatening to crush her fragile heart into a million pieces. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the rugged cliffs, Arya stood on the edge of the precipice, her heart pounding in her chest. She could hear the distant roar of the ocean below, a reminder of the danger that lay ahead. She took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing thoughts. She had come this far, pushed past her fears and doubts, all to reach this pivotal moment, the moment that would change everything. With a sudden burst of determination, Arya stepped off the edge, plunging into the open air. The wind whipped around her, tugging at her hair and clothes as she fell faster and faster towards the churning waves below. Her mind was a whirlwind of emotions, fear mingled with exhilaration, doubt battling with hope. But through it all, one thought burned bright in her mind. She was in control of her own destiny. No longer would she be held back by the constraints of her past or the expectations of others. As she hurtled towards the water, Arya made a split-second decision. With a powerful kick, she twisted her body in midair, aiming for a narrow ledge that jutted out from the cliff face. It was a risky move, one that could either save her life or seal her fate. The distance closed in with alarming speed, the ledge growing larger and larger until it filled her vision. With a final burst of adrenaline-fueled energy, Arya reached out and grasped the rough rock, her fingers finding purchase just in time. She hung there for a moment, the sound of the waves crashing against the cliff echoing in her ears. She clung to the rock, feeling the rough surface digging into her palms, grounding her in the reality of her situation. But there was no time to rest. With a grunt of effort, Arya pulled herself up onto the ledge, her muscles trembling with exhaustion. She lay there for a moment, gasping for breath, before pushing herself to her feet. Ahead of her lay a narrow path, winding its way up the cliff face towards an ancient temple perched on the summit. Arya knew that her journey was far from over. The greatest challenges still lay ahead. But as she gazed up at the temple, its spires reaching towards the darkening sky, she felt a surge of determination like never before. She had come this far, and she would not stop until she had conquered the impossible. As the sun began to set, casting hues of pink and orange across the sky, Rachel found herself standing at the edge of the cliff where she had first met Adam. She could still feel the weight of his words echoing in her mind. "I will always find my way back to you." But after everything that had happened, she wasn't sure if she still believed him. The wind whipped through her hair, carrying with it the sweet scent of wildflowers. She closed her eyes, taking a deep breath to calm the storm of emotions swirling inside her. The sound of footsteps approaching made her heart race, and she turned to see Adam standing there, his eyes filled with a mixture of pain and longing. "Rachel, please, just hear me out," he pleaded, his voice raw with emotion. She remained silent, studying the man before her. She could see the vulnerability in his eyes, the regret etched in the lines of his face. A part of her wanted to run into his arms and forget about everything that had torn them apart. But another part of her, the part that had been hurt too many times before, held her back. "Adam, I don't know if I can do this anymore," she finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "I thought we had something special, but you keep disappearing when things get tough." Tears welled up in Adam's eyes as he took a step closer to her, reaching out to gently cup her face in his hands. "I know I've made mistakes, Rachel, but please, believe me when I say that you are the love of my life. I will do whatever it takes to make things right, to show you how much you mean to me." Rachel felt her resolve crumbling as she looked into his eyes, seeing the sincerity and love shining through. Despite her doubts and fears, she knew deep down that she still loved him with every fiber of her being. "I want to believe you, Adam. I want to trust that you'll always find your way back to me," she said, a single tear sliding down her cheek. Adam's eyes lit up with hope as he pulled her into his arms, holding her close as if he never wanted to let her go. And in that moment, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the world fell into a hush around them, Rachel knew that their love was worth fighting for. The rain pounded against the old farmhouse, its time-worn walls groaning against the force of the storm. Inside, Emma sat by the fireplace, her heart heavy with the weight of her secrets. She had never intended for things to spiral out of control like this. She had only been trying to protect her family from the harsh realities that threatened to tear them apart. As she stared into the flickering flames, memories of the past flooded her mind. The day her father had left them without a word, the night her mother had fallen ill and never recovered. Emma had been left to care for her younger siblings, to be their rock in a sea of uncertainty. But now, with the truth looming over her like a dark cloud, Emma wondered if she had made the right choices. She had kept secrets buried deep within her, hidden from the world and even from those she loved the most. But the weight of those secrets was becoming too much to bear. Just as she was about to confront the truth, a sharp knock on the door shattered the silence of the night. Emma's heart raced as she hesitantly made her way to the door, the storm raging outside mirroring the turmoil within her. As she opened the door, a figure stood before her, rain-soaked and weary. It was Nathan, her childhood friend and confidant. His eyes held a mixture of concern and determination, cutting through Emma's defenses with ease. "We need to talk," he said simply, his voice firm and unwavering. Emma felt her resolve crumbling in the face of Nathan's unwavering gaze. She knew she could no longer keep the truth hidden, that she needed to unburden herself of the weight that had been suffocating her for so long. With a deep breath, Emma took Nathan's hand and led him inside, the fire crackling in the hearth casting a warm glow over them. And as the storm raged on outside, Emma finally found the courage to face her past and embrace the future, whatever it may hold. Tom's heart raced as he entered the dimly lit room, filled with a mix of fear and determination. The faint sound of dripping water echoed through the walls, adding to the eerie atmosphere. In the center of the room, he saw her, Lily, bound to a chair with tears streaming down her face. his hands clenched into fists, anger and desperation bubbling within him. "You!" Tom's voice was a low growl as he faced the man responsible for all this chaos. Vincent, Lily's estranged ex-husband. Vincent smirked, his cold eyes locking onto Tom's with a mixture of amusement and malice. "Well, well, well, if it isn't the knight in shining armor come to rescue his damsel in distress." Tom's entire body tensed, his jaw locked as he fought to contain the rage within him. "Let her go, Vincent. This ends now." Vincent chuckled darkly, sauntering closer to Tom with a sinister gleam in his eyes. "Oh, but Tom, dear boy, you see, Lily is mine, and I always get what's mine." With a sudden surge of adrenaline, Tom lunged forward, intent on freeing Lily from her restraints. But Vincent was faster, landing a brutal blow to Tom's stomach that sent him reeling backwards in pain. As the two men grappled with each other, Lily's eyes widened in fear and hope. She knew she had to act fast if they were to have any chance of escaping this nightmare. Summoning every ounce of strength within her, Lily managed to free one hand from the restraints. With trembling fingers, she reached for a nearby object, a shard of glass left lying on the floor. In a split-second decision, Lily lunged forward, plunging the shard into Vincent's side with a guttural cry. Vincent staggered back, a look of shock and betrayal flashing across his face. Gasping for breath, Tom seized the opportunity and tackled Vincent to the ground, delivering blow after blow with a ferocity he didn't know he possessed. In the chaos that ensued, Lily's hands were trembling as she worked to free herself completely from the chair. And as she finally stood free, she knew that their ordeal was far from over. Together, the three of them stood in that dimly lit room, locked in a battle of wills and fates intertwined. The outcome uncertain, but the fire of determination burning brightly within each of them. Elena's heart raced as she stood at the edge of the cliff, the wind whipping around her, her hair billowing out behind her like a curtain of silk. The sun was setting in a blaze of orange and pink, casting a warm glow over the rugged landscape below. She took a deep breath, summoning all her courage as she looked down at the vast expanse of ocean stretching out before her. This was her moment, her chance to finally let go of the past and embrace a future filled with endless possibilities. With a fierce determination, Elena raised her arms out to the side and closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the world lifting off her shoulders. And then, with a primal scream that echoed off the cliffs, she stepped off the edge and plummeted downwards, the rush of wind drowning out all other sounds. For a brief moment, there was nothing but the exhilarating sensation of free-falling, of being weightless and untethered. And then, with a sudden jolt, the bungee cord snapped taut, sending her hurtling back upwards with a dizzying speed. As she rebounded, a wild surge of adrenaline coursed through her veins, filling her with a euphoric sense of liberation. This was unlike anything she had ever experienced before. The sheer exhilaration of embracing the unknown, of taking a leap of faith and trusting in the unseen forces that held her aloft. And as she swung back and forth, suspended between sky and sea, Elena felt a profound sense of peace wash over her. In this moment, she knew that she was capable of anything, that she could conquer her fears and soar to new heights. With a radiant smile on her face, Elena finally let go of the past that had bound her for so long. She was reborn in this moment of surrender, her spirit unshackled and free to embrace the future with open arms. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in a riot of colors, Elena closed her eyes and whispered a silent thank you to the universe. She was ready for whatever lay ahead, ready to face life's challenges with a newfound strength and resilience. And as she was slowly lowered back to solid ground, she knew deep in her heart that this was only the beginning of her incredible journey towards self-discovery and redemption. The best was yet to come, and she was more than ready to seize it with all her might. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the horizon, Sarah stood at the edge of the cliff, overlooking the vast ocean. She could hear the sound of waves crashing against the rocks below, a constant reminder of the turbulent journey she had been on. Her heart felt heavy as she thought about the choices she had made, the sacrifices she had to endure, and the people she had lost along the way. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Taking a deep breath, she closed her eyes and allowed the memories of the past to flood her mind. The pain, the betrayal, the moments of triumph and defeat, they all came rushing back to her in a torrent of emotions. But amidst the chaos, one thing remained clear to her. She had fought with all her strength, with all her heart, to make things right. And now, as she stood on the precipice of a new beginning, she knew that her journey was far from over. With a newfound determination burning inside her, Sarah opened her eyes and took a step forward, embracing the unknown that lay ahead. The wind whipped through her hair, lifting her spirits and carrying away the remnants of doubt and fear that had plagued her for so long. As the last rays of sunlight faded away, Sarah's silhouette stood tall against the darkening sky, a symbol of resilience and hope in the face of adversity. The journey had been long and arduous, but she had emerged stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever before. And as the first stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Sarah whispered to herself, "I am ready." And with that declaration, she spread her arms wide and let herself free fall into the unknown, ready to embrace whatever challenges lay ahead with courage and unwavering resolve.